It's no secret that the world coverage of events and developments in Afghanistan has been very one-sided and largely negative. We hear, for example, how much territory the Taliban controls, the revival of ISIS. We hear about this endlessly. We read the special reports of the Special Inspector General for Afghan Reconstruction in the United States, even though he does admit that the Taliban control only 15% of district capitals. He doesn't go on to say that those 15% are largely in the less populated and rather bleak southern part of the country. And he does, even less does he point out that the Taliban don't control any provincial capitals. But be that as it may, it's one-sided coverage. And what we don't hear is exactly what we're going to hear today. And that is about the young men and women of a new generation who are not just starting their careers, but deep in their careers, in the business world, in the economy, in social sector, who are creating absolutely new industries, new businesses that are operating successfully, maybe under great difficulty, but successfully in Afghanistan and beyond. And that's something we're going to, I think you'll be surprised to hear about. Who knows, out in the outside world, there are 21 TV stations operating, newspapers all over the place, 9 million boys, 3.5 million girls in school, 10,000 women who are studying in public or private universities, and 800 of them are now professors. These are the stories we don't hear, and the stories that we're going to hear this morning are, I think you will all find, not only inspiring, but very important. This is the missing story of Afghanistan. We will start with Mr. Farshid Ghiasi, who is the president and CEO of Netlinks Incorporated, a global technology firm headquartered in Virginia with regional offices in Afghanistan, India, and the United Arab Emirates. Mr. Ghiasi founded the company in 2005 as a one-man team, and later Netlinks quickly grew into a global company with 500 plus employees, providing innovative solutions in communications and information technologies to over 4,500 companies globally. Mr. Ghiasi is also a partner at Click.af, the leading e-commerce website in Afghanistan. He holds an MBA from International University in Japan. Farshid, wonderful to have you here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Starr. Good to have you all here as well. As you already introduced me, my name is Farshid Ghiasi, and I'm running a software development company called Netlinks. Initially started in Afghanistan, but then we expanded our operations to India, a small operation in UAE. And after I moved to the US, we shifted the headquarters from Afghanistan to the US as well. A lot of the work that we do is based in Afghanistan. So we are helping right now with a lot of government entities in Afghanistan, helping them with their digitization, and with introduction of e-government systems for them. Some of the key projects that we are currently working on with the support of the US government is the Afghanistan's personnel and pay system, which actually helps the Afghan government manage the human resource and payroll for Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, and also helps the international community in ensuring that the amount of money that they contribute to the Afghan government is going to the right, allocated locations. In addition to Netlinks, there are a couple of other stuff that we do as well. Our company also owns the largest employment website in Afghanistan called jobs.af, which is currently being used by almost all the companies and organizations within Afghanistan when it comes to advertising their job vacancies and trying to recruit or hire people. And as you also briefly introduced, Netlinks also owns click.af, which is one of the first e-commerce portals in Afghanistan, where we currently have over 500 to 600 vendors. These are small businesses within Afghanistan, and a large number of them women-owned as well. So we help them sell their products not only inside Afghanistan, but globally as well. So for the first time, we were able to be the first e-commerce company in Afghanistan from where people anywhere in the world could order anything from Afghanistan online, pay using their credit cards. We set up the whole payment gateway and everything. And with partnership with DHL, we were able to ship products anywhere in the world within like 1 or 2 weeks. So that's pretty much, what Netlinks and the affiliated companies with us do in Afghanistan. We are always trying to do things, create new businesses, create new employment opportunities. We also hire, we are probably one of the companies who prefer to hire people with zero experience rather than hiring people with a lot of experience, because we have a very comprehensive 6 months intensive training where we hire these fresh university graduates, train them up to par, and after 6 months they're able to basically deliver work quality on international standard scale. Especially when it comes to software development. So that's a little bit of introduction about me and things that we.
And you're doing okay.
I'm doing okay, yes.
That's the bottom line. Okay, well, let me turn now. Thank you, and turn now to Assadullah Zamir, founder of Abreshum Venture, the first Afghan venture capital firm focusing on social entrepreneurship and private sector development. He's also the founder of 2 solar energy companies, Akbar, Zahir, and Lunar. Prior to entering private business, Mr. Zamir served as the Minister of Agriculture, Irrigation, and Livestock in Afghanistan, and he has more than 15 years of leadership experience, both in the public and private sectors, focusing on rural development, education, agriculture, and natural resource management. Mr. Zamir holds an MA in economics from California State University, East Bay. Assadullah.
Thank you, Dr. Fred, and hello, everyone, whoever are listening to us. You did a very good introduction, so I would go in a little more in depth to what I have been doing in the private sector. Of course, I've been in the private sector back and forth. I was engaged with the private sector before I took over the responsibility as a Minister of Agriculture, and now back to private sector. So that's where I believe that with the experience and working together with the government, private sector can do a lot more. So what I would say a little more about what Abreshum is doing, different than the other consulting firm. It's not just a consulting firm, but it's more a venture capital type of firm. Of course, in the context of Afghanistan, it's not a standard venture firm. What we do is identify entrepreneurs who have businesses but are not working. So we help them with the restructuring, rebranding, and at the same time, if they need capital, so we help them raise capital. We connect investors with entrepreneurs. There are a lot of young and strong entrepreneurs who have great ideas, who are yet at the same time struggling with all the challenges they have. They need a little direction and they need a little capital. So we find the right investor and with the right mindset. The issue in Afghanistan in the past 20 years, we had a lot of contractors because of all the NATO presence in the military. So we have a lot of contractors, but they are not entrepreneurs and investors. Some of them, however, have become very successful entrepreneurs and expand their businesses. So what we are identifying is with those people who have made some money, but they don't have an idea of how to invest in new ventures. So we help them with that. I can go on detail later on what we have done under the Abreshum venture. And one thing more, not only that we connect entrepreneurs, but we also help find new markets. For example, we help one of the investors in exporting agriculture commodity out of Afghanistan to China and to Europe. So we help them find different buyers. And now we are exploring buyers in the US to see how, so they need to go beyond traditional market that the Afghan traders are or were familiar, Pakistan and India. So there are a huge opportunity. So we help them tap into those markets. Under the Easy Solar, Akbar, Zahir Solar, what we do, we are mainly implementing a number of rural energy programs. Electricity is the main issue in all parts of Afghanistan, particularly in the rural area. There has been a lot of effort in the past providing diesel generators for them through the National Solidarity Program, is a World Bank finance program. But recently, the direction has been changed, and there are people now more acceptable to starting the solar energy. So we have been working in a number of remote areas, 12 provinces so far, and we are expanding on our activity. So far, it has been very successful. Under the Lunar energy, we have a different approach. Why two companies? One working more in the rural area, and the other one is working with the private sector. What I mean by private sector is that, to give you two examples, in Kabul, in cities, there's a lot of residential apartments in townships. Again, generator is one issue, that Kabul is so polluted because of the so many generators. So what we are encouraging those owners of the company to come and join invest with us together. So we install the solar energy and put the meters and everything. So what Lunar Energy is a private energy or electricity supply company. So we install the meters and everything, and the owner co-invests with us. So one issue right now is that every day we don't have, out of 24 hours, we don't have 14 to 16 hours electricity. So that can be addressed. While it is addressing the social issue, the lack of electricity, basic need, but at the same time is a business opportunity for people who want to invest in it, because our government, Abreshum, is the electric company, cannot provide. So this is an opportunity for people to come in and invest. The other example I would like to give is, again, we have more than 6-7 telecommunication companies in Afghanistan, and they have hundreds of antennas all over the country, which again, that then are using generator in order to keep the mobile connected. So what we are offering it to these companies, that we come and invest in these antennas, we provide them solar electricity, and they gave us a 15 years contract, so they don't have to invest anything. So we maintain for them, we do the repair and maintenance, and we run it. We provide 24-hour electricity, and this is a very successful project in Africa. Africa has been, for example, Nigeria has been doing this kind of exercise. So it's for the first time in Afghanistan, we have come up with this approach, and we are already in discussion with a couple of these companies. So that's a glimpse of what we are doing. I'm glad to have you all here.
Thank you very, very much. Again, we're going to come back at the end and ask, how can a foreigner invest in Afghanistan? That's very important. You can't just open the door, you have to invite people in. Okay, let me turn now to Zabihullah Ziarmal, who is, again, an old friend of the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute and the Rumsfeld Foundation. He is CEO of the CEFE Group International, which he founded back in 2005 as a small-scale consultancy firm. Under his leadership, it has grown to become an international trading and investment company with global operations in multiple developmental sectors in Afghanistan, Central Asia, the Middle East, and in the United States. Mr. Ziarmal is also founder and president of the World Trade Center of Kabul. That's one of a network of World Trade Centers worldwide, as we all know, and a founding member, the first vice chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce in Afghanistan. He holds an MA in Public Policy and Administration from the University of Washington in Seattle. Zabihullah, you're on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Starr. It's good to see you. Good to see Mr. Asad Zamir, Mr. Farshid Ghiasi, my old and good friends. And I would like to thank the CAMCA network, the Rumsfeld Foundation, and the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute, and specifically Dr. Starr, you and your team for organizing this webinar. As I said before, I remember that first time when we met, you were talking about this one, that we have to come and sometimes to speak out about the stories of ourselves, that how we made it. Although when we are talking about Afghanistan, the first thing which comes in our minds and also in the public's minds outside Afghanistan is the Taliban, the breaking news about the war, about insecurity, about corruption, about poverty, and many of these issues. Despite of these realities, which are there in Afghanistan, unfortunately, so far, the people of Afghanistan are suffering, the businesses are suffering, but there are so many positivities on the ground that keeps the nation moving forward, that keeps us moving forward, that has been keeping us moving forward for the past 2 decades at least, and also giving energy for the businesses and also for the young boys and girls and young entrepreneurs on the ground to move forward, to create jobs, to expand their business and to provide opportunities for other people. The positivities which is on the ground, I would like to just name some of them. For example, the life has gone on despite of all these issues which I mentioned before. There's a hope among the people. People have a positive hope for tomorrow, for the after tomorrow, and for the future. There's a prosperity that keeps the national spirit high. And also there's a social life among the people, among the youngsters, very positive, very good social life, which one can miss it so quickly, especially those youngsters and these youngest entrepreneurs that who are outside, like Farshid Ghiasi, that I believe that he is missing sometimes Kabul. Myself, that I'm in Dubai, after a few days, after a week, I have to go back to Kabul, and same is the case to the other young entrepreneurs that who are having business and expanded their business from Afghanistan, from the core in Afghanistan. Still the core is there, but they have operations worldwide or regional wise in multiple markets in multiple countries and cities around the world. And the business has gone on very well over there, despite of all these issues and challenges. And sometimes there are some complaints that people are saying that, oh, Afghanistan have an insecurity, Afghanistan has no electricity, Afghanistan has a corruption, and all this stuff. But I'm saying that despite of all these issues, there are huge and amazing business opportunities on the ground. That's why they kept us over there in Afghanistan. And sometimes when I'm sitting with my friends, I tell them that, okay, if these are all the challenges, then why you guys are still in Afghanistan? Why still you're doing business in Afghanistan? The reality is that that margin of profit that businesses and the companies that they can make in Afghanistan, and those opportunities which is existing in Afghanistan, in our region, in the CAMCA region, and specifically in Afghanistan, probably there are a few of them existing in other countries, in other markets, in other regions. Another reality is that the businesses, the companies, and the Afghan entrepreneurs, they can feel more comfortable doing business in Afghanistan comparing to the international markets. Although opportunities is huge for international companies and specifically for the US companies in order to come do business in Afghanistan, invest in Afghanistan, do the partnership, do the joint ventures with the Afghan entrepreneurs, with the young generation of the entrepreneurs from Afghanistan, that who knows international markets, who knows international business, who knows international trade, and to expand their business and to create jobs for the people, and as well as to make good money out of that one as well. As far as this webinar is specifically on the stories of Afghanistan, which has not been said, there are many unsaid stories. And one of those stories is myself, Ms. Zabihullah Ziarmal story that I have started back in 2004, 2005 as a one-man army, as an individual entrepreneur with a minimum capital of only $300, which I have said this story many times. And that was the entire capital which I had. But I had a passion, I had a vision. I was realizing huge opportunities over there on the ground, and still there are many and multiple opportunities on the ground, both for the new and young entrepreneurs from Afghanistan, from the region, and as well as there are many opportunities for the international traders and international companies in Afghanistan, in our region as well. So back in 2005, I started with a consulting, a training and consultancy firm with myself, and then another friend of mine has joined me, then another team has joined us. Then we started provision of the consultancy services for the companies, for the businesses in Afghanistan. At that time, we used to be working with the USAID projects, and specifically, there was a project, it was called Afghanistan Small and Medium Enterprise Development Project, which I was engaged with that project. I was supporting and providing business training services and consultancy services for the small and medium companies in Kabul, in Mazar, in Herat, in Bamyan, and as well as in other locations and provinces in Afghanistan. Later on, in 2008, I established the first private institute in Afghanistan, a private institute of business and management, which was called Zahir Institute of Business and Management. And we upgraded that one to a university, and also we have created a school under the same name within Kabul, in Kunduz, in Badakhshan, and in Ghazni province. And it was going on until by 2012, then I have shifted from that sector to the other sector. At the same time, in 2009, we have established a construction and logistic company because there was a lot of opportunities over there on the ground, both in the construction sector and as well as in terms of logistics and supply chain logistics for the youth government operations in the country, and as well as for the Afghanistan National Security Forces on the ground, and as well as for the commercial market. Later on, we have entered into energy sector, oil and gas, that still we're active in that one. We're doing commodities trading of the oil and gas products from our Dubai office in DMCC to the Africa, to the Middle East, to the Central Asia, and as well as in Afghanistan. And then we have added a new sector into the group, which is the investment company on the real estate business and the hospitality sector, which is still we're quite active in terms of the real estate development projects in Dubai, in Afghanistan. We have started recently a project in France as well, that due to the pandemic, the work is a little bit slow, but still we're successful and we're moving forward very well. And also we have an amazing and a very prominent project of the World Trade Center, Kabul, which is a new entity which we have established down back in October 2019. So the building of the World Trade Center, the main headquarters is based in Kabul, located in Kabul, and we're developing that one part of our real estate development operations in Afghanistan as well. Due to the market shift and due to the market change from sector to sector, that myself personally, along with my team, we have been diversifying since the beginning of the company CEFE Group International, because diversification is a must for the businesses. No matter if you're keeping for one sector, whenever an entrepreneur or a businessman or investor realizing opportunity in another sector which is potential and they have technical capabilities and financial capabilities, I would strongly suggest that we have to move in and we have to diversify, because diversification is giving more life and giving more energy for the business, and it keeps you moving forward and expanding bigger and bigger. Due to this shift and due to the multiple opportunities which is existing in Afghanistan right now in many sectors, and specifically on the agriculture sector, since last year we have invested on establishment of the cold storage facilities in Kabul, and also recently we have invested on an existing venture which is a resin processing factory in the north skirt of Kabul city on a huge plot of land, and also attached with that one is there's an agri form as well. Apart from that one, I was engaged and I was involved in establishment of the International Chamber of Commerce in Afghanistan, and as well as the World Trade Center in Afghanistan, which for both I'm the founder. For the ICC, I'm the first vice chair, and also the ICC network in Afghanistan and ICC establishment in Afghanistan back in 2006. It supported us and it helped us, and also it helped the businesses in order to be part of the global network of the International Chamber of Commerce all around the world, which is the largest business organization in the world, established back in 1919, and the headquarters is in Paris. In 2018, I became the candidate for the executive board membership of the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris, although some of my friends, both in the ICC board in Kabul and also in the business community, they were telling me that, no, it's so tough, it's not easy to get the vote of the ICC networks globally and to find your way into the executive board. But I decided, along with the support of my friends, support of our network in the ICC and also globally, I became the candidate from Afghanistan for the first time for the executive board membership of the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris. And on June 2018, fortunately, I could get the sufficient number of votes, and I've been elected by the General Assembly of the International Chamber of Commerce in Paris. Still, I'm going on. My first term of the third year is going to be completed by June. So I hope so that I should be selected again for the second term, which I have an opportunity to have a chance as well. Finally, last but not the least, the World Trade Center, which is a global ecosystem of the businesses in 320 countries and 320 major cities of the world in more than 90 countries. The World Trade Center Associations, which is headquartered in New York and established 50 years back. This is managing the entire operations of the World Trade Center Associations. And also it's a global network of the World Trade Centers around the world, which is providing practical business opportunities, business network, business connectivity, and also market access, both for the national level and international level for the businesses around the world. This is another bigger opportunity for Afghanistan, although the business model is a for-profit organization, this World Trade Center, not like the ICC, which is for non-profit organization, and it's one of the private sector institutions. The World Trade Center, which has been established in Kabul, and currently my colleagues have operation on the ground, although the main building is under construction, but still we're quite active. And we're connecting the businesses of Afghanistan with the businesses and markets around the world. And also we're connecting the international businesses into Afghanistan. Or to say very summarized way, the World Trade Center, Kabul is your business gateway in and out of Afghanistan, both for the national businesses and companies and as well as for the international businesses and companies. Thank you very much. I think we would be expecting some questions from the audience as well. Then I would be providing more information concerning to any specific question to myself. Thank you, Dr. Starr.
Thank you very, very much for a most interesting report. Very little is known abroad about the very active role of women in emerging industries in Afghanistan. I was apprised of this for the first time when I attended a luncheon of the then Chamber of Commerce in Kabul, and the woman sitting next to me, a formidable lady, I turned to her and asked her what business she was in, and she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Cement." Well, that was a lesson. But our next speaker, who would have been our first speaker, is a leader of this new generation of businesswomen in Afghanistan. Ms. Zuhal Atmar is president and owner of the Gul-Mursal waste paper recycling factory. It's the first woman-run recycling plant in Afghanistan. She grew up as a refugee in Pakistan and returned to Afghanistan after the fall of the Taliban and after she completed college. Ms. Atmar first set up a waste management plant, but later decided to fully focus on recycling, using funds donated from the U.S. government through the USAID program. Since then, her business has moved from success to success, and we turn now to her to give us a report on it. Zuhal, I think you have to, is that functioning or not? Well, we'll postpone her presentation. I think she is with us. There seems to be a problem of connectivity. Let me turn to our three speakers so far and raise the one issue which probably is on the minds of most on the minds of foreign investors, and that's the question of corruption. On the one hand, you hear, well, it's ubiquitous, can't possibly avoid it. On the other hand, you say, well, no, there's a new generation of men and women who are bringing a different approach to business. Tell us, which is right? You're on. Any of you?
Do we go by these speakers? Well, if I may start, say, yes, indeed, there are corruption, and corruption is everywhere. It's not only Afghanistan story, it's everywhere. But there are very few individuals that are dedicated to work very transparently and honestly. So what I would say, to give you an example of how we avoid corruption. Sometimes you can avoid corruption. For example, in one of the rural area, we were building the solar system for the a community of more than 60 families that were there. So the elder of the community, who happened to be the local representative, we call the Shura. There's a Shura who endorsed some of the project, wanted money from us because of the project we already wanted to implement. They say, we can't do that one. We cannot give you any money, but what we can do is that we can build a solar water pump for the community because there was an issue of water as well. So what we did was did a community project and inform everyone that, look, this is what we are planning to do. We cannot do more than anything. Either we don't do the project, we cannot give you cash as a bribe or anything, but this is as a contribution, that's what we can do. So this is happening not only at the private sector or government level, but also at the community level. But the way to deal with it is to help them understand and also engage in a broader perspective, other communities or families or people in the community to understand why we are doing that one. Anyone else want to contribute?
Yeah, thank you. We will turn in a minute to Zuhal Atmar. We're very happy to have you with us. But meanwhile, if either of the others of you would comment on this issue of corruption, that's a very interesting insight.
Yes, I would like to comment, Dr. Starr, about the corruption. Actually, as Mr. Zamir mentioned, that the corruption is everywhere, but the type and the format of the corruption is different from city to city, from country to country. We cannot ignore that there is no corruption in Afghanistan. Corruption is one of the challenges which we are facing and the businesses are facing in Afghanistan. Although, as the Russians and Ukrainians are saying, that corruptions also sometimes make the works faster. But I'm not in support of that one. I'm against that one. And I can say that corruption is unfortunately killing the businesses. And this is a reality in Afghanistan, but the level of corruption comparing to the previous year, it has decreased a lot, it has changed a lot. And the reason behind that one was engagement of the young generations into the government system, into the leadership system. Although there are corruptions going on among the government institutions or outside of the government institutions, but the more engagement of the young generations, both in the private sector and as well as into the government, this is supporting reduction of the corruption in the long run. But still, the level of corruption and the type of corruption which is in Afghanistan, in no way it's not avoiding the businesses to do more business on the ground in Afghanistan. This could be mitigated by fighting against that one, by reporting against that one, or sometimes to speak out about that one. This is something which we have to do, and the businesses who are coming in Afghanistan and who are doing a business in Afghanistan, we have to speak out about corruptions, and we have to report that one, both to the private sector institutions. For example, in ICC, we have a policy for disclosing the corruptions to the government, because the businesses are connecting with us, and whenever they're facing any corruption, any issues of the corruption, they have to inform. We're going to be keeping the privacy, name of the person, name of the company, but at the same time, we feel ourselves responsible to communicate the matter with the government or with the relevant authorities in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Farshid, do you want to add anything to that?
Our friends already spoke about, the problems of corruption, and I do totally agree with them that corruption exists everywhere. Even as I live here in the US, in some extent or some sort, it exists here as well. But, we all have to do our part in fighting against the corruption. I totally forgot, in the introduction to mention to you guys, an amazing, technology, using technology to basically fight corruption. How do we do that? We have developed an app called Ihtisab, which somehow means accountability. So using this app, if you are, like in the city and, you see like anything, like somebody doing something wrong or a government official asking a bribe, you can directly use the app to report that incident online, so people can see it over the map on what incidents have happened where in Kabul. It could be like a case of corruption, like I paid a bribe. You can do that. So all of us, we need to.
And people do it?
Sorry?
People use it?
Yeah, people definitely use it. Yeah, people use it to report security issues. People use it to report paying bribes and all that. So it's a really cool app, although it's very new right now, but we are very hopeful that in coming future more and more people are gonna start using that, and it's going to create more and more value. So yeah, basically that's what we do, our part, fighting corruption using technology.
Well, thank you. Let us now, finally, and we're delighted to have her with us today, Zuhal Atmar. I've already introduced her and her remarkable business that she started.
Hello, everyone. Salam ba Amadou Saydiga. Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, I would like to add on the comment of everyone here about my business is in the recycling sector, which is more about waste paper recycling, and I'm the first woman doing a recycling business in the country. And my business and my work is totally in private sector, but working together on this part of recycling, I'm always in connection with the government authorities, and always I have to follow the rule and regulation in government sector and government level. But due to corruption, I have been working very hard for the last 5 years, and due to corruption, I could never expand or extend my business because of the paperwork processes in the government level, because of the quick replacement, like every other month, every other 6 months, there's replacement in the government high officials levels. That there was an example when I went in one of the government organization, and I had already the signature of the authority government authorities, it wasn't accepted. They said this person was. So these replacements of the government official make the work very delayed and more slow in work process, which disappoints and the private sector. The private sector has to be in a proper communication and connection with government. Once there are changes in the government level, we can't process our paperwork, our own projects properly and smoothly, so we could go forward.
Very interesting. And where do you function geographically?
My business I operate. My business operation is in Kabul. In Polcharki Road, in industrial zone, sorry now, but our work is totally with the government because we have to collect the waste paper from all government organizations, and I have the decree from the Ministers' Economic Council, which they have given me a privilege that this company is a woman-owned company, and they are allowed to collect the waste paper from all government authorities, even from independent election commission. And I have invested in different government organizations with all shredder machines to shred all the confidential documents. But due to this corruption, most of my projects after investment is in a pending situation. And for the last 7 months, most of my projects were closed or stopped because of this paperwork. And even I haven't found out what is the problem in those projects that they are not forwarding.
Very interesting. Well, for your sake, we hope they don't become a paperless government. Now, let me ask a question of all of you, please. We've heard mostly about Kabul today. And I think if you check with foreign investors, that's where most of their, if they have any knowledge about the business climate in Afghanistan, it's all based on Kabul. Tell us what's going on in Mazar, Herat, Kandahar, other urban centers, and are there prospects for international investors there as well as in Kabul?
Can I, Dr. Starr?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, Kabul, in Afghanistan, we call it small Afghanistan because you can see in Kabul, the people from all the provinces, they have a business establishments in Kabul. Although if their businesses are operating in the north or in the south or in the east or in the west or other provinces, but still they have either their headquarters in Kabul for the reality that Kabul is the capital of Afghanistan and is more populated, almost 6 million plus population is living in Kabul and is the largest or the major market in Afghanistan. The central government is based in Afghanistan for business establishment, for the closure, for the taxation, for any matters, and also for the business network and connectivity. So these opportunities are more existing in Kabul. Although the other major cities are also interesting. For example, Herat, Mazar Sharif on the north, Herat on the west, Nangarhar on the east, and then Kandahar on the south of Afghanistan. These are the other 4 major cities in Afghanistan that businesses are existing, and specifically Herat in the west and Mazar, which is on the north. Through the north, lots of goods and commodities is coming to Afghanistan from the Central Asia through the north from Mazar. That's why many businesses are operating over there because we have borders with Turkmenistan, we have border with Tajikistan, with Uzbekistan in that side. At the same time, lots of trade is happening between Afghanistan and Iran. Iran is one of the largest trade partner of Afghanistan in terms of imports at the moment, and also in terms of exports. I think it is the second one after Pakistan. So lots of commodities and trade is happening between Afghanistan and Iran. Pakistan is on the east, which Nangarhar province is the major one. so many of the goods and commodities is being imported to Afghanistan through Pakistan. In the previous year, there were a lot of movement of the goods and logistics from Pakistan, but since there were some issues in terms of the transit, which is still the government of Afghanistan is negotiating the terms and conditions of the APTA and APTICA agreement with Pakistan, which is Afghanistan-Pakistan Trade and Transit Agreement. Some progresses were made, and it's facilitating more trade between Afghanistan and Pakistan, this agreement. At the same time, Kandahar, the security is a concern in Kandahar, but it's still so many businesses have established in Kandahar, so many businesses are operating in Kandahar on the agriculture sector, on the production sector. A few months back, I was in a gathering into the presidential palace, which one of the large, or I can say the largest industrial park has been established by the Afghan entrepreneurs in Kandahar, and it was inaugurated by President Ghani, although they are in the initial step for mobilizing and development of the infrastructure. And that is another big opportunity for the new businesses in terms of the production and industries that would be coming in Kandahar.
But both of your presidents have made a big emphasis on Afghanistan's unique and important geographical location at the center of a web, if you will, roundabout, as both of them have used that term. But here's my question. Do you see Afghans themselves becoming central players in transport through Afghanistan and from Afghanistan, or is this going to be controlled by outsiders?
Question is concerning to me, Dr. Saria, if I'm
It's to any of you.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of the transport and logistics, although there are so many players in Afghanistan, the national companies are there, the Afghans themselves are the major players within the territory of Afghanistan, although they have a sort of joint ventures with the companies with Pakistan. For example, those goods and logistics, which is being transported through Pakistan in and out, Afghan companies have joint ventures with the Pakistan companies. And same is the case in terms of Iran, because they have more upper hand in their own territory. As Afghans, they have more upper hand in their own territory. In terms of the Central Asia, because we have a railway, Afghanistan is connected. Almost all the goods movement is coming through the railways from Uzbekistan to Afghanistan, and also from Turkmenistan. We have both railway and also roadway, and as well as the Lapis Lazuli project, which was inaugurated a few years back. It is active, which is connecting Afghanistan through Turkmenistan, Georgia, Caspian, to Turkey, and then to Europe. But lots of the goods movement is not happening through that route. With Uzbekistan, the volume of the trade is being increased between Afghanistan and Uzbekistan, although I don't see any potential joint ventures which was happening between Afghan companies in Uzbekistan. But Afghans, they have invested
Why not?
on multiple sectors in Uzbekistan and mainly in Tashkent as well.
Why not joint ventures?
This is something, a new chapter, because since Uzbekistan in the past, the situation was not more business friendly in Uzbekistan. Since the past 3 years that Uzbekistan markets has opened the gates, previously Afghans were trading more with Uzbekistan. Nowadays, Afghan companies have invested in Uzbekistan, and also there's a lot of interest from Uzbekistan's side on Afghanistan as well. And specifically the issue of the regional connectivity and regional integration in terms of trade and business and cross-border investment is something very interesting topic, and it has been taken very seriously both by the government of Afghanistan and also with the government of Uzbekistan. A few weeks back, if I'm not wrong, I was there in Tashkent, and I was there when the trilateral project of connectivity of Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan has been opened: Tashkent, Kabul, and then Turkhan.
New railroad.
These projects, these infrastructural, regional integrity and regional projects is creating more opportunities and providing more facilities for the businesses to get connected, to do more business, and to network and to do the movement of the goods and logistics much easier and faster.
Tell me, of the four of you, are you seeking foreign investors? And if so, how should they reach you? Zuhal, why don't you lead off? Oh, thank you.
Well, there are many approaches. One, we have Mr. Ziarmal, the Chamber of Commerce. So that's one way to approach, and they will connect it to us. The other one is to the individual entrepreneurs in Afghanistan who have invested, who know the economy, and they have been running businesses. So it's either, if they don't know who to work with, so the Chamber of Commerce and the International Chamber of Commerce, or Mr. Ziarmal. I happen to be on the board, what do you call it, Iftikhari, the honorary board member, rarely attending it. So that's, but the other one, if someone asks me that as an investor that I am interested to invest in agriculture or in the solar energy or other processing factories, so we do have a list. I do have personally, under the Abreshum venture, have a list of entrepreneurs and opportunities, some of which has already started. They need additional investment to expand and to grow because the potential is there. They're small. And there are some, for example, in solar energy, we do have, there is a need for investors. We have been locally raised, but I've never approached any international investors so far. And the return on the investment is between 15 to 25% in the margin of 10 to 12 months. And so that's a very good area. In some cases, it's even more. So it's if we do invest in a larger scale in order to reduce our cost, so the return can be even bigger, much more. So there are opportunities. The international investors, I can connect them with at least 20 entrepreneurs, but with broader, some of the entrepreneurs are, to address your question before, in the regions, not just Kabul, like in Herat. Like to give you an example of another investment opportunity, just as an example, the Afghan government started or inaugurated the Kamal Khan Dam. And it is an opportunity for any investor to come and irrigate or use, invest in the agriculture sector. So we are in border with Iran, and Iran, there's a need, and through the Chabahar corridor that is part of, so we can reach to other part, to the Middle East. So there's a huge opportunity, not only in Kabul, but in the other areas of Kabul, in Mazar, or in Herat. So we would be happy to talk to them, to engage with what we are doing. If they wanted to explore other ideas, to introduce them to other businessmen, entrepreneurs. So that would be a good way to start. And at least these, my colleagues, Ziarmal, Farshid, and Zuhal, they are all people who have a network of investors that they can, or entrepreneurs that can connect to them.
I'm sitting in Washington. I'm hearing this. And then I think, wow, this is fascinating. Look at these opportunities that are appearing, and these talented younger men and women who are building real modern organizations to take advantage of them. It's most impressive. What is equally impressive is that I've not heard a word about any of this from any of your official people here. I've heard nothing about it from, there used to be a sort of Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce or business organization in Washington. I haven't heard from them for years. It's silent. What's going on? There seems to be a big disconnect between what's actually happening, what you are actually doing, and the total silence. Have I read anything about in the Wall Street Journal about this? No.
Well, that's probably because the media loves to only show horror stories only, not positive stories in Afghanistan.
maybe that's not the whole story. Let's agree
Actually,
that that's true.
Actually,
But I have the impression that Afghanistan itself has been very passive about this. I don't recall being invited to events at the Afghan embassy for American reporters. I don't know of tours of business reporters coming to Afghanistan, not to mention Europe, Japan, or many other places.
Yeah, indeed, Dr. Starr, I would like to explain one reality in Afghanistan. Although the private sector development and provision of and creating opportunities, business opportunities, and paving the ground for growing of the businesses, for expansion of the businesses is in terms of the policy, it's the responsibility of the government mainly. But due to the priorities in Afghanistan, that insecurity, Taliban, war, corruptions, these are the top priorities for the government, which they're not putting the business expansions and private sector development as a top priority. Because of this reason, there's not so many stories about the businesses, about the ventures in Afghanistan to be reflected by the political representatives of the Afghan government. A few weeks back, we had specific discussions with His Excellency Minister of Foreign Affairs of Afghanistan, and I've prepared already a concept proposal for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that all the political consulates and the political representatives of Afghanistan, including the embassies and the consulates around the world, they have to be connecting the businesses, they have to be talking about the businesses in Afghanistan, and they have to be talking about the project opportunities, investment opportunities out of Afghanistan. At the same time, we have commercial attaches in multiple cities, which they are being appointed by the Ministry of Industries and Commerce. On a separate meeting and discussions, we had a discussion with His Excellency Minister Ghoriani, Minister of Industries and Commerce of Afghanistan, and we clearly explained that the main responsibility of the Afghan commercial attaches, which they are operating in multiple cities, they have to be creating business connectivity. They have to be introducing opportunities for the foreign investors, and they have to be introducing Afghanistan and bringing foreign investors and bringing more trade between Afghanistan and that specific country or the region that they are operating. Apart from this one, through the World Trade Center also, we're working currently on trade missions. We already planned 3 trade missions between Afghanistan and Ukraine, between Afghanistan and Russia, and after mid-July between Afghanistan and the US. That with collaboration and cooperation with the US Embassy in Afghanistan and also Afghanistan Embassy in Washington, DC, and engagement of the World Trade Center, Washington, DC, World Trade Center, Delaware, and as well as the Afghan American Chamber of Commerce that we had a short discussion with them as well. They're much interested. We are going to be organizing specific trade missions with lots of preparations in advance, reviewing the profile of the businesses and the companies that they have interest for use, reviewing and selecting the companies that they have interest from use to Afghanistan, then arranging pre-networking, pre-connectivity opportunity for the businesses. And finally, when the trade mission is coming, so we'll be taking roughly around 50 businesses from Afghanistan to US that they have to be connecting, they have to be discussing the joint ventures, they have to be discussing business interests, mutual business interests and business opportunities through the business forum, through the exhibitions, within this trade mission to make the business happen, to make the business work for both for the US companies and as well as for the Afghan companies.
Zuhal Atmar, do you want to add anything to this, the question of investment?
Yes, I would like to add one more about investment is about ICC, that we really need ICC to connect us with international investors, especially at this time of this COVID-19, which has affected the businesses badly, and we need more investment in our country for this private sector. And we're looking forward at least to be connected through ICC. If possible, we are looking for at least are looking for a grand B2B conference by IT community to do a B2B conference for us, for all local investors and international investors to get joined, because for the last 1 year, things has been separate and business has been affected. And also through, because of COVID-19, most of, because I'm talking on behalf of women entrepreneurs as well, female entrepreneurs wasn't supported by any funds at all. Due to COVID-19, they have lost their businesses and their business were closed down. So we are really looking for international investors and more investments in those sectors that the business were closed. And also, I would like to add that we need the international community and the donors to focus and evaluate the appointments by government, whoever they appoint at the key ministries which are related and connected more with the private sector, like Ministry of Commerce and Industries, Ministry of Economy, and other independent authorities of government which are related and connected with private sector, at least integration and inclusion of private sector experts who has enough experience in the business sector. They should also be appointed in government level. At least they have the experience how to bring forward our challenges or the private sector challenges into the government organization. Thank you.
Zuhal Atmar, you are a successful Afghan businesswoman, one of many, and you worked in a sector no one would have thought of except you. Have you ever been approached by any Western?
Thank you so much.
Have you ever been approached by any American, European, Japanese, whatever, Indian women's group saying, we want to pull together some capital for firms like you and other women firms that women have started? Have you had any communication on that line?
No, sir. Up to now, I haven't been connected to any other countries or other female entrepreneurs or investors yet. And my current project, which because my previous business was that I had the logistic company, and I was providing because I participated in one of the exhibition in India, and then I bring the machinery and I started recycling business, which was a CEFE project by USAID. But up to now, I haven't been in contact. But yes, this is a fact that when I participate in many exhibition in India and in Pakistan, they have told me that we don't have a female businesswoman camp in your country because it's a war-torn country, and there are challenges how you do this recycling business. But I told them that there are opportunities in our to do any businesses in this country, and it is possible. So taking the chance to talk on these issues, there are opportunities in businesses and key for investors to invest in this section. And also I have to mention here, because I'm working in manufacturing sector and industrial zone, we don't have energy, power, electricity 24 hours for the operation of manufacturing factories in the country. And there are several discussions in many levels for the manufacturing sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we have some time left, and I want to make sure that we're responding to questions that might come in from our audience, but I see no evidence of that. Matt, what's going on?
We actually have a couple of people who posted questions here. I don't know if anybody's reading.
For some reason, I don't seem to have them, but maybe you could read them off.
Okay,
Here we are. Yes, Q&A.
So the first question is asked by someone named Darren Berlin. I'm very much interested in the peripheral states of Afghanistan, particularly the Wakhan corridor. Are there any programs, economical investments in these regions? I am an architect, perhaps any special interventions through some economical intervention within these regions. So that's a question asked by him.
Yeah, let's stop there. I've got them now, and ask if there are any responses. The borderlands, the border regions of Afghanistan, and particularly mentions the Wakhan corridor.
Yeah, since I am from from Badakhshan, which
yes, exactly,
where they're talking about. As far as I know, and to my knowledge, the only organization that is actively working in that region is the Aga Khan Foundation and Aga Khan
Development Network.
Yes, Aga Khan Development Network. So they are working there, and I think they do have some certain economical programs. USAID used to have projects back in days, but I have no idea if they still have any projects or not. Perhaps maybe Ziarmal Sahib or Zamir Sahib, you might know, being in the Ministry of Agriculture and your experience.
I can say firmly that the Aga Khan Development Network was working in business development on the Afghan side of the border, especially once the bridge, beginning when the bridges opened. Any further comments on that question? Other border regions?
Yeah, actually, based on my information and knowledge, in the past, some studies were happened regarding the Wakhan corridor to be connecting Afghanistan through Wakhan and Pamir with China. Although it's a rough area, it's a rough terrain area, it's not easy and it's very capital intensive. But part of the One Road, One Belt project of China, probably that project would be of the interest for the Chinese government to support it, although the route for the One Belt, One Road is mainly through the Central Asia, and it's going to be connecting Afghanistan, part of that belt as well. But still, the Chinese government would have interest for that project. According to my knowledge, that is not for the best interest of the US government, and that's why that corridor between Wakhan and China has never happened so far, and there is not much development in terms of that corridor.
Yes, and it's also somewhat competitive with the main route coming down from China to Pakistan. Another question.
If I may,
yes, please.
Okay, if I may add, what Aga Khan and some other, like Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, are doing very small development activities, not an investment program. However, the water dam is being built not in Wakhan corridor but in Badakhshan, under construction. What the government had a discussion, and also a couple of visits from the Chinese government and private sector, was to establish a connection between through Wakhan with the China, to a railroad or something where or a road. So that an initial assessment was done, and I haven't heard anything since then. So that was the only major development discussion between Afghanistan and China on a potential railroad and some other investment. Do the Chinese has invested in some for their own security, in terms of military, some borders posts and checks for in order for counterterrorism. So these are a small engagement that has happened, no major investment or at least any major project from the government or private sector for any investor.
But Rahim asked us about Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. That's been touched upon somewhat, so we'll pass on. Another question from Chuck Weller in Cleveland, Ohio. How do you avoid the impact of the Taliban on your business? What do you tell potential investors? Do you see a solution?
Well, I can
Sorry, I
talk.
couldn't get the question.
What impact do the Taliban have on any businesses you're associated with? And how do you deal with it?
It's a very good question, actually. I can say that actually Taliban is also doing business right now. They're collecting a lot of money. They're collecting more money from the businesses than the government of Afghanistan is collecting the taxes. For example, nowadays, you're paying for a container from US to Afghanistan, probably $10,000, including the customs, but only once it reaches from the customs to Kabul, it will cost you around $5,000 or more in order to do the movement. And the reality is that in all the locations almost and the major highways, the Taliban are stopping the movement of the cargoes, and they are collecting money from any logistic movements from one side of the country to the other side. If the peace negotiations would have results, and if the Taliban would be coming, or there would be ceasefire and the Taliban would be joining the government, the current one or the future government, whichever they name them, the peace government or inclusive peace government or partnership government, which I'm not a politician to comment on that one. From my point of view, the impact would be very positive for the businesses, because currently the businesses are paying a lot of money on the corruption, a lot of money for the Taliban, and also lots of money on the security. That at that stage, they won't have these extra expenses on security and corruption and for the Taliban.
What do the rest of you think on that?
Taliban, in terms of project implementation, if companies, or for example, to give, we haven't faced yet, but we avoided one case, and where there was a project to implement solar project in an area that was influenced by Taliban, also government, but also influenced of Taliban. So they are asking for 10% tax.
Whoa.
Yes. So Taliban asked for a 10% tax. They are seeing the contract value, and they will take 10%. Very straightforward. You can't argue, you can't do anything. So either you do the project and pay the 10% tax, or you don't. So we have a void, but a lot of companies I know, whether they are taking project, even in area controlled by government, but Taliban has some influence. Taliban will approach those companies, especially construction companies, if they are, for example, if they are building roads. A lot of people don't say it, but this is reality. They don't want to say we are paying taxes to Taliban because the government is financing or the donor is financing. But that is the ground reality. If Taliban has influence in that area, you have to pay 10% tax.
Let me ask you this. There was a lot of talk a few years back about the large sums of Afghan money, Afghan capital, that had been sent off to the Gulf states for banking. This was a comment on the state of the security of Afghan banks at the time, I suppose. My question is this money come back in the form of investments in businesses in Afghanistan, or is it still sitting in the Gulf? Have you created, has the business sector, the new business sector in Afghanistan, created something sufficiently attractive that Afghan investors with all that money sitting in the Gulf would bring it back and invest at home?
May I, Dr. Starr?
Please.
Actually, bringing back money to the country and investing on opportunities, it depends on a number of policies that should be attracting both the direct investments from the nationals and as well as to promote and support the foreign direct investments. One of the reasons that Afghanistan could not attract a lot of FDI and as well as from the citizens that they have invested money, not only Afghanistan, part of their financial capabilities they have invested outside Afghanistan was insecurity, war, the Taliban issues, and corruption. I cannot say that all Afghan has invested whatever they had in Afghanistan. As we're saying that Americans are saying that don't put all your eggs in one basket. So this is the approach that the businesses in Afghanistan is following. Probably there would be few cases that an Afghan had invested all their funding into the projects in Afghanistan, but most of them, since as far as I know, let's say 50 to 60 to maximum 80% they've invested back in the country. The rest they've invested either in Istanbul or in Dubai or in Europe or in Central Asia, specifically Uzbekistan for the past 3 years, or any other markets in the region and out of the region.
But the point you're making is that there is a substantial investment from Afghanistan itself now. Do you have any idea of its scale?
Not very accurate. Sorry, Zamir. Not very accurate, but from what I hear, around $2 billion liquid cash is currently with the Afghan companies and Afghan businessmen and women, which is out of the country, but it could be invested back into project opportunities in Afghanistan.
Yes. Further, any of you? Please.
May I also add, not only to the Middle East, a lot of money from Afghanistan also went. Middle East was first, and second is Istanbul, Turkey. So a lot of Afghans take their money invested in a lot of businesses or property, and Turkey as well. And the new trend, especially from the northern provinces, is Tashkent. Uzbekistan is another destination that in the last 2 years, a lot of investors, Mr. Ziarmal would know more than I, that I know a number of Afghans who have established processing factories and properties in agriculture or other areas, or just in the hotel services in other areas. So unless there's only my personal thinking, if peace agreement happen, if peace happen, so some of these, very few of these would come back and invest. If that doesn't happen, I don't see any possibility for these majority. I am not talking about the few individuals. Majority of them will not bring back that money or those money or some of those money to invest back in Afghanistan.
Here's a question from Darren Berline. Fantastic, he says. Thank you very much to Farshid. Could you please write the name of the organization working in the Wakhan corridor so I can reach them? Maybe you could respond to that online. Well, at this point, I want to draw our session to a close by obviously thanking our 4 speakers. We're extremely fortunate to have you all here together. But beyond that, I think the whole world is grateful to what you and your contemporaries in Afghanistan are doing in the way of creating new, modern, and viable businesses. People say, well, this will all burst out if there's some sort of a peace settlement, but there won't be a peace settlement unless there's confidence in the economic future. I think it's a big mistake for the government of Afghanistan to focus all its effort on the peace process and security, and not on publicizing what Afghan businessmen and women in business are actually accomplishing in the opportunities that they're creating. It seems to me those two should be advanced together. And we started this program with a very interesting observation of Zamir's of the difference between contractors and investors. We're not talking about contractors. We're talking about developing investors. And it seems to me this is something that has to be a top priority of the government along with the security issue, but not in second place to it. And it should be equally a top priority of the US government. And I regret to say that's not the case, nor is it the case in Europe. So these are opportunities which I think the four of you have presented in the most vivid way. And I think that the message we draw from your wonderful presentations is listen up. Listen up. This is a world of opportunities, of talent. There are serious problems, not least of which is the 10% tax. If you will, you're being taxed by two governments, one real and one aspiring. But in spite of this, the four of you are thriving, and we congratulate you and hope our long ties with all of you will continue far into the future. Thank you all very much. Thank you around the world for tuning in for this. There'll be more from the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute and the Rumsfeld Foundation in the future. Thank you.